We're doing a little bit of a different format this week.
I'm surprised this hasn't occurred to us before.
I would agree, but I'm excited about it. We are doing we've talked about it. We are doing an update episode,
which means we are going back. Either new studies have come out, new information, or we have anecdotal personal information to share about previous topics we've covered.
Yes,
exactly. So let me give y'all a quick rundown of what we're going to update you on. One, we're going to give you an update on what we called the poop episode, why you aren't regular anymore and what to do. And we talked some, of course, about magnesium and supplements you could take in that. But Brierley is going to supply us with some great anecdotal guidance, first-hand experience on some things she's experienced with her magnesium. Then, I don't know if anybody saw it in the headlines, there was a new study on cold immersion or cold plunging. Mm-hmm. And that it may not be so as good as for certain things as it's been touted. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, we have a little quick update on why mother's mental health is deteriorating.
Yeah.
Shocker.
Exactly. Shocker. Which is a nice little update to the episode that we did on wellness burnout and how the pursuit to quote unquote be well isn't working.
Yes. And to the cold plunging one, that's related to, I don't know if we've done cold plunging specifically, but we did cryotherapy. We did. Which any kind of cold therapy, whether it's plunging or cryotherapy or whatever it is, would fall. Ice baths. Yeah.
Exactly. Falls into that category. Yeah.
Okay. So
let's go back to the poop episode, why you aren't regular anymore and what to do. That ran in January of this year. And in it, to refresh some people's memory, we talked about how, things like hormone fluctuations, stress, anxiety, those can make constipation worse or can make you even less regular than normal.
When someone says I can't go to the bathroom, you hear, fiber, hydration, activity, you need to work on all three of those things. And what we learned is there's a lot more to it.
Yes.
There's a lot more to it, and particularly for women because of, anxiety, stress, hormones, that type of thing.
Yes.
So, and we'll link that episode in the show notes.
One of the main things that I feel like I took away from that episode is, and this was one of the experts that Carolyn had interviewed, she had said, is that stress causes your muscles to tense. And so if you think about that when it comes to bowel regularity, like your intestines are just like a long muscular tract.
Yeah.
And so that that imprinted in my brain. And then of course, Carolyn talked about how taking magnesium glycinate is a great option. It doesn't give you that run to the bathroom effect. It's a gentle, slower stimulation. But then the other side of it too is that glycinate is one of those that is one of the forms of magnesium that can also have a calming effect on your brain. So it's super helpful for when you're stressed or anxious. And then of course, magnesium in general can help support sleep. Mm-hmm. So after this episode, not immediately, but if you've been following our journey here on the Happy Eating Podcast, you would know that I went through this whole experience with having pelvic floor issues.
Oh, yes. If y'all have not heard her experience with what she got prescribed, which was Valium Vagina. Vagina Valium. I can't talk today. You need to go back and listen to that.
Yeah, that was definitely
for her pelvic floor.
Funny.
Are you still taking that?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not. But so anyway, in that journey, what I realized was that there was a high level of stress circulating in my body. Okay, that was contributing to the pelvic floor issues, and so. And because of the pelvic floor issues, my regularity was completely thrown off because everything was so freaking tight. So I went full bore on magnesium glycinate. And let me tell you, it works. It really, really works.
For what aspects?
Well, in addition to some other things, my pelvic floor issues are greatly improved. And I did have a couple of days where I forgot to take it, and I noticed a shift in the discomfort in my pelvic floor. So that's number one. Number two is it absolutely helps with regularity.
But not in a bad way.
But not in a bad way. No, I haven't had any run to the bathroom experiences, but I have had the like, wow, that really just kept things going along kind of feeling.
Okay.
That's like a good one,
I like
right?
that.
All right. And then, so all has been well with the magnesium glycinate. I've been very consistent with it. I also get magnesium in my electrolytes. So I'm really like fueling the system here.
So let me ask you this. Do you know how much magnesium glycinate you take each day?
So I don't remember how much comes in my electrolytes.
Okay.
But in the supplement, I just take one capsule and I get 120 milligrams, which is about 29% of your
that's
daily
not even
value.
a ton.
It's not a ton that comes in my electrolytes. It's another, like, it's a small dose, but it's something. It's better than nothing, right?
Because I think the RDA is like around 340 or something, if I remember correctly.
That sounds about right.
But yeah. And you do get some from food, but if you're just relying on diet alone, most people are not getting enough.
Right. Now, I did try a new way to take it this week that really revolutionized my life.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
So I had been taking it after a meal because I would take it with my vitamin D K2 that I've been taking, have been taking. And a friend, we went to a concert the other night and I was exhausted. We'd been sweating like crazy because it was so hot. And on the ride home, she was like, look, take your magnesium right before bed. Which with glycinate, we've said like it doesn't have that sleepy effect. And it doesn't when I take it during the day, which is great. So she's like, take it right before bed. And she's like, you might even want to double up your dose. Well, I did not double my dose because I was afraid of what might happen to my intestines the next day if I did that. So we did not do that. But I took one. And after being out late, having some drinks at the concert, I slept like amazing. I was going to say like a baby, but we know babies don't really sleep that great. But I slept so well.
Yeah.
So
and
well.
You still had the good intestinal benefits the next day.
Oh, yeah. I woke up the next morning. I had I didn't even have to have my coffee.
Okay.
So,
yeah, because, most magnesiums help with sleep, but magnesium glycinate usually isn't the first one you see on the list for people specifically looking for a magnesium for sleep.
Yes.
So that is great to know. So you're getting the stress reduction in the brain, the calming effect, and you're getting the
bowel regularity.
Thank you. That's exactly the term I was looking for.
Yes, and
didn't know.
And what I found is that it doesn't knock me out because I've done it 2 or 3 nights now, so it doesn't knock me out, but it definitely helps me stay asleep. And then when I wake up in the morning, I feel like refreshed, and that feeling of like, oh, my body feels so good, I don't want to get out of bed.
I'm so jealous. I didn't sleep great last night.
Yeah. So, anyway,
okay,
that's my update.
Thank you for reporting back. We need to do more of these.
We do. Yeah. We do.
Okay, so let's talk about cold plunging or cold therapy, whether it's ice baths or cryotherapy. So, we've kind of been inundated the past couple of years with research just touting the benefits, whether it's for muscle recovery or inflammation or, just mental health, even various different things.
Yeah. And we did do an episode.
Yes.
I'm going to find it and we'll link it in the show notes. But we did do an episode, and I remember the conclusion of it was basically like the research was a little mixed because we talked mostly about cryotherapy, and that the research was a little mixed. The benefits weren't perfectly clear, but there were studies where it showed great promise. And ultimately it was like, it's definitely not going to hurt you. It could be worth trying. You and I have each done it. I've enjoyed the benefits of it. I will say I have now converted over to being an infrared sauna person, which I never thought that would happen. But anyway, so that's just kind of the gist of where it was. But I also remember, too, that the research around cold plunging was stronger than the research around cryotherapy.
Yeah.
Now,
yes.
go.
So cold plunging would be more like your ice bath. Cryotherapy is that machine that you get in that's super cold.
And you're only in there for like 3 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, so this was a May 2025 study that came out, and it compared the effects of cold plunging or cold water immersion with hot water immersion, and then there was a control group that got nothing following a workout. And what's kind of cool about this study is it was done on 30 women, and there really has not been much at all research on
Women
plunging cryotherapy with women. There may have been some mixed groups. I don't even know that, though. It's mainly been males.
Yes.
So, and they were looking at how either cold water immersion, hot water immersion, or no kind of water immersion after workouts, what effect that had on muscle recovery, like an hour post-exercise, 48 hours, and then 72 hours post-exercise. So they had a standardized exercise like protocol that they did, and then they had a 10-minute what they call recovery intervention, and that's where either they had a cold water immersion, hot water immersion, or they just sat there at room temperature. And then they measured various physiological responses like muscle oxygen saturation, core temperature, heart rate, and they measured these like before, after exercise, after the water immersion, but then also periodically within that 72-hour period afterward. They also evaluated things like your they call it maximal voluntary isometric contraction, but like, the max you could like lift or push. And muscle swelling, muscle soreness, and then serum creatine kinase or kinase, because that is usually an indicator of muscle breakdown. And so they measured those things. What they found that was so surprising was that there were really no significant differences in all these recovery markers when you compared the cold water immersion group to the hot water immersion group. And that was also when you compared it to the control.
Yeah.
They did say the hot water had slightly higher creatine kinase levels at 24 and 72 hours and greater muscle swelling, but that was compared to the control. And the cold water immersion compared to that didn't have significantly less. It wasn't significant. Let's see. So really they found no differences in DOMS, which is delayed onset muscle soreness, that soreness you get like 24
That's a big
hours
deal
later
that they didn't find any difference there.
So bottom line, they found no differences in objective or subjective recovery symptoms that they were looking at between the two immersion groups. So they were like, if you like taking a hot bath or you like getting in an ice bath, and that's, helps you relax or does something for you mentally, that's fine, but it's likely not doing much for you, like recovery-wise. It's not something you necessarily need to do recovery-wise. And there were some where the control group had the more favorable measurements.
Wow.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah. Just kind of shows you how like a couple of studies can come out and you can run with like, oh, it's cold plunging. It's a great thing. We all need to be doing it after a workout. I'm sure a lot of people have just gone with that. You know?
Yeah.
They hear it at the gym or whatever, so they start doing it. And it we may have more studies and it may show that it is more beneficial. So this is just one study, but it's kind of interesting that it's done on women and that there weren't significant benefits.
Exactly. Like I think especially that it was done on women is really cool because I do remember a lot of the ones that we had seen before were mostly men.
Yeah. So it kind of takes the pressure off to do a cold plunge.
Yeah, we don't all have to cold plunge.
I'm just kind of tired of seeing those on my Instagram feed.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Last one. Mother's mental health.
Yeah. Okay. So, let's see. back in October, we did an episode called Wellness Burnout, How the Pursuit to quote unquote be well isn't working. And what we talked about was that despite people's effort to like improve their wellness, they were burnt out. They weren't actually improving their overall well-being. It wasn't just about like physical health. It was mental health. It was like, emotional, spiritual.
If I remember correctly, sometimes they were actually adding
yes,
stress or not just not improving, but maybe declining.
Yes.
Mental health.
The pressure to
You think our mental health is messed up from our kids?
to pursue wellness was burning them out, making it worse. So I could not help but feel like, I feel like this is now like it's not just related to your pursuit of wellness, right? And like trying to like be healthy, right? And this study came out in the JAMA Internal Medicine in May of this year, and it looked at maternal mental health. And when I saw the study, I was like, well, no, duh. But I also was like, see, this is like it. Sometimes you really do need a statistic to like wrap your head around it. So basically what they found was that they looked at both physical health and mental health in almost 200,000 women.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And from, I think it was 2016 to 2023. And what they found
and they were all mothers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Is that they asked them about like excellent physical health.
Like how would they describe it or how would they rate it?
Yes. Yes. So, how would they rate it? Like, would you say it's excellent? Would you say it's good? Would you say it's like fair or poor?
Yeah.
Right. And they did that for both mental health and for physical health. And so what they found was that the quote unquote excellent physical health group decreased by, like people who said that they had excellent physical health decreased by 4.2
at the start of the 8 years.
Yes.
Okay.
Excellent mental health decreased by 12.4 percentage points. 12.4. And then fair and poor mental health increased by 3.5 percentage points over the 8-year period.
Yeah.
So basically, yes, excellent physical health decreased, excellent mental health really decreased, but then also the group of people that fell into the fair and poor mental health increased.
People who aren't already in a good place when they're starting motherhood.
Yes.
It's going to get worse.
Exactly. Yeah. And some groups were a little bit more affected than others. Like they did see like single mothers were in there, mothers who were relying on either public insurance, which would be a reflection of socioeconomic status, or no insurance, also tended to, have poorer scores. But generally, it came back to, and then the researchers said we needed to investigate that. This was really where I was remembering the wellness burnout episode. They needed to investigate reasons why this was occurring and ways to improve it.
Oh my God! Let me guess, the researchers are male.
I'm going to assume that they are. I'm also going to assume that they felt like they couldn't.
And they don't have 50 billion tabs open in their brain like we do.
There's one with a name that I don't know if they're male or female, and then the other two appear to be female. And I get,
well, shame on them.
This is why you make that conclusion at the end of the study, because you don't have like a reason why when it's a cross-sectional study.
Writing a study like this, yeah.
However,
but it's just kind of a slap in the face, particularly when another female says that.
Yeah, like we don't know why. So I remembered that when I went and I looked back at the wellness burnout study, I was like, all right, one of the statistics was that people who felt connected to their community, whatever the community means to them, that they're 28% more likely to feel a sense of purpose, which
that
ties
your mental health.
To your mental health.
And the loneliness aspect.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so from my own personal experience and those of my other female mother friends, like being a mom in this country is freaking hard.
Yeah.
And it's very isolating.
Yeah.
So No duh.
Yeah. So find your people.
Yeah.
And hang out with them. Well, I just have to add one little thing. This is not research-based at all. It is something that I saw on Instagram yesterday. I can't believe I didn't send it to you, but it was
I can't believe you didn't either.
Mom who had kids. I want to say they were elementary age. And it was a summer day, like it was in the past week or two, and she decided to count every time her kids said mom. And at the end of the day, her total was 243 times.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I would have never guessed that the number was that high. But now I actually want to do it myself.
Well, then I was thinking, gosh, I don't get that much anymore because mine are older.
No,
I get it in other ways.
You get it in other ways.
Text nonstop, calls or FaceTime nonstop, which are almost even more disruptive than mom.
Yes.
Yeah.
They are.
So, yeah, and yesterday was a big day for the calls and texts.
Yes.
We need to shut some of that down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was like, wow. Yeah. That kind of sums things up.
I get it. I mean, I'm just thinking about our hour and 15-minute morning getting out the door.
Yeah.
The requests.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, this was fun.
It was.
So we'll be sure to link to each of the episodes that we referred to in the show notes. So if you want to go listen to the poop episode, cryotherapy, or wellness burnout, you can easily link back to them. Until next week.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for the Happy Eating Podcast. I'm Brierley Horton.
And I'm Carolyn Williams. If you liked this week's episode, then don't forget to rate and leave us a review on iTunes. And be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a new episode.
We can't wait to have you back at our table next week for a brand new episode. Bye.
The contents discussed in the Happy Eating Podcast, such as advice, studies, text, graphics, images, and other material discussed or presented on the site or podcast, are for informational purposes only. Content is not intended to be a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your mental health professional or other qualified health providers with any questions you may have regarding your condition. Never disregard professional advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on the Happy Eating Podcast.
If you are in crisis or think you may have an emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. If you're having suicidal thoughts, call 1-800-273-TALK, that's 8255, to talk to a skilled trained counselor at the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. If you are located outside the United States, call your local emergency line immediately.